Hi, it's the Chappiness guy. Welcome to today's episode of Vestibular Talks. Today's very special guest is going to teach us how to use neuroplasticity to heal chronic vertigo, dizziness, or tinnitus. She is a very important and very popular vestibular audiologist, neuroplasticity therapist. She's an author of a book and the founder of Seeking Balance International, as well as the Rocksteady program. She has supported many people across the world to overcome their chronic symptoms of dizziness and tinnitus. If you haven't guessed who it is, her name is Joy Remini, and she's here with us today to share her knowledge about neuroplasticity and how we can heal. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Find your happiness, guys. All right, Joy, we're live. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. It's really nice to be here.
It's very nice to meet you, and I'm very honored that you took the time to talk to us and to share your story with Vestibular Talks. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Joy, do you mind telling us a little bit about? I know who you are. I follow your YouTube channel. I read your book, but would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I guess first and foremost, I'm a human being. I feel like, in a nutshell, I'm a bit of an advocate for people with invisible symptoms who are really struggling to be understood and heard by their friends, family, and their medical and health professional community too. I feel like a lot of people with vestibular conditions or tinnitus, so audio vestibular conditions, so vertigo or tinnitus, often don't know how to voice what they're feeling. It's confusing, it's hard to explain, no one believes you, understands you, and it can so quickly just kind of get dumped in the anxiety, depression categories. And I
Right.
feel, as a vestibular audiologist and neuroplasticity therapist, and someone who's recovered from both vertigo and tinnitus, I feel that I'm an advocate for these people and giving a voice to the voiceless. Because the more people I meet all over the world, the more passionate I get about saying, no, we can do this differently. There's too many myths, too many misunderstandings, and I
Yes.
really hope over the next 10 years we'll see a dramatic change for the better in how these people are treated.
I sure hope so. And Joy, let's break it into three parts. Let's start first with what's a vestibular audiologist. What do they do?
Well, my first degree was actually in psychology, so that's my
Mhm.
undergraduate degree. And from there, I was then invited to take a master's in audiology. So I went from studying behavior in the brain and neuroscience into really specializing in the ear and hearing and balance. Most audiologists, like I would say over 95% of audiologists, focus on hearing and hearing aids.
Mhm.
Then a very, very small percentage of audiologists focus on the balance organs, and I was one of those people. Most vestibular audiologists, so it's a specialization, will do diagnostic tests, which means we spend hours with one person going through all of these really quirky little tests that I describe in my book,
Mhm.
to help understand which parts of the balance organs are working. So a vestibular audiologist is highly skilled and trained in understanding the inner ear for both hearing and balance. And they're highly educated in how the brain, the eyes, the spinal column are all communicating with the sensory system to create a normal, healthy, functional, balanced, stable, calm world. And so when clients don't have normal sensory input and they feel not quite right, as I use that terminology in the book because we all feel a bit different, but the thing we have in common is that we know something's not quite right.
Yes.
And that's because that sensory information coming either from the ears, the eyes, or our touch system, or for that matter, it could even be smell or taste. The sensory distortions are just not making sense. They don't match our expectation of the world in that moment. So a vestibular audiologist is really, really skilled and trained at looking at what are the ears doing? Are they working properly? And then I went ahead and did further training to really look at the rehabilitation and recovery side. So most audiologists are just focusing on diagnosis and testing, and they will have close to no training or understanding in rehabilitation and recovery. So that's what I then decided to make my specialty.
When you have all this knowledge and you have quite a very unique specialties, how did that help you when you experience your own symptoms, or how was the process of maybe diagnosing yourself or coping or treating the conditions when you experience them yourself?
Well, I experienced them when I was still naive and still a student and still quite innocent and still really putting doctors and medical professionals on a pedestal and being like, well, they know everything and they'll solve everything. I hadn't yet gotten to that place of really working with and alongside medical professionals. That came later in my life, when I had really bothersome vertigo and tinnitus and not quite right feelings. And actually, I did experience anxiety and depression as well at that point in my life. It was a very traumatic time. I wanted somebody else to fix me. I didn't understand it. And a lot of the message I was getting from my peers in audiology was, there's nothing we can do, live with it. I got really good at hiding what I was feeling and pretending I was okay, but really just never feeling okay in my body, not really wanting to go out to dinners or parties or get on public transport, and really pushing myself and forcing myself to be normal and act normal and look normal, and it's exhausting.
Yes.
And a lot of that is almost subconscious. Like, it's in hindsight that I look back going, wow, I was just faking it.
Yeah. Yes.
However, it was a real gift, because after 4 years of struggling, and really my first profession is yoga, I started a very disciplined yoga study as a 15-year-old.
Okay.
So by the time I was in my mid-20s and experiencing all of this, I had 10 years of really disciplined yoga practice and philosophy, and I understood neuroscience from an academic level, and I understood neuroplasticity and the action of neuroscience from a yoga, which is the heart of neuroplasticity, comes from these yoga practices and philosophies. So then I started to experiment and take responsibility and realize that actually there's so many dead ends. No one's been able to fix me or help me. So I started to take my healing into my own hands and experiment. I had no idea what my outcomes would be, but I actually took solace and perhaps solidarity in knowing there were thousands of other people like me out there. And I felt almost a professional obligation to do my best research to figure this out, because I had so much background knowledge.
Yes.
And then, of course, once I really experienced the healing myself and saw it in hundreds and then thousands of people, I could really have conviction and relax into knowing, actually, this is not as bad as people think it is. And the lectures at university are outdated, because it's not true you have to live with it, and it's not true you can't heal it or can't fix it or can't resolve it. You can. It's just that nobody's known how.
Yes, yes. And you have mentioned neuroplasticity a few times by now. In your own words, what's neuroplasticity?
Well, it's the brain and body's capacity to change and adapt. And our nervous system is what brings us life. It's what allows our sensory system to tell our muscles to move, to allow us to taste, to smell, to hear, to see, to speak, anything that gives us life, to breathe, all of it. That's happening through our nerve cells communicating with each other. So the nerve cells make up the nervous system, and neuroplasticity is the capacity for those cells to change how they communicate. And humans are highly adaptable. We are literally amazing at adapting to changes. And you just have to look at the world in this COVID situation to see how adaptable we are. When our environment changes, while yes, that does put stress on our system, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, we are literally designed to be adaptable to stress.
To evolve. Yes, we evolve quite quickly. Yeah.
So my programs and my book and my methodology of helping people heal is really about becoming resourced to access that adaptation and that adaptability, because everybody does it so differently, but no one's going to heal or even get started if they don't know how, and if they don't have the resources. So yeah, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual journey of healing is highly personal and highly unique, but the fact that we're alive and living and human beings really means we've got the capacity to be adaptable. We have to maximize the residual function we have left, even if there's damage.
Yes,
or even if you have anxiety or depression, doesn't matter. You can still move forward and reestablish a new sense of calm and peace and trust and confidence. It's a process. It's not a miracle.
Yeah.
Well, it is
now,
a miracle.
Joy,
A different
yes.
kind of, a practical miracle.
Joy, now, is the practice of neuroplasticity something that has to be constant and consistent, or once a person gets better and let's say the symptoms disappear or they get rid of the symptoms, they can just completely relax and go back to their usual old being? What is the process with that?
Well, I think you already know the answer to that because you've read my book. My book really, really clearly outlines it's not about symptoms. And people who focus on getting rid of symptoms remain stuck because that's where their focus is. And by focusing on symptoms, even if your focus is getting rid of them, you're reinforcing to your brain, hey, this tinnitus, this vertigo, this dizziness is really important. So we're going to keep it alive. We're going to keep it firing. So focusing on symptoms will keep the symptoms alive and that neural pattern reinforced. However, when we put our focus into how we want to feel and how we want to be, maybe joyful, maybe courageous, maybe we want to feel adventurous or athletic or vital, when our daily practice becomes, okay, today I want to focus on feeling ease, grace, space, calm. That is a way of life. You don't suddenly stop. Every day you wake up and say, today I'm going to focus on connecting to family. And you make informed choices about how you're going to develop that connection and that community. So the symptoms no longer even factor in. It is a way of life, and people find it highly rewarding because every day they're getting the rewards of feeling what they want to feel, thereby changing how their neurons connect and changing how the patterns start to actually hardwire. So they become an entirely new person, and new neural networks actually automate.
Joy, and can anybody at any age develop neuroplasticity, or is there a certain age limit where you don't evolve and adapt anymore?
Age has nothing to do with it. In fact, our research shows that healing and improvements happen. This is through the Rocksteady program and following clients. People are healing and recovering statistically, significantly, regardless of age, regardless of their diagnosis. It doesn't matter what condition they have or don't have. Even if they have no diagnosis, they still recover. Regardless of the time since onset of symptoms. So whether or not they've had their symptoms for 1 year, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, doesn't matter. And regardless, so it's age and regardless of gender, it doesn't matter. So it's really interesting. It's like the common denominator is that we're human and that we have something that feels not quite right and that we're willing to take self-responsibility for how we reset and recalibrate our neural pathways. That's really the clincher. I think someone who doesn't believe in neuroplasticity, someone who wants somebody else to fix them or wants some drug or device, they're unlikely to get good results because they might read a book or buy a program but never actually ask themselves, what do I want to feel today and what am I going to do about that? Or what troubling and difficult emotions am I sitting in today? Maybe I'm feeling a lot of guilt towards my parents. Maybe I'm feeling a lot of pressure financially. Maybe I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and frustration towards the patriarch and power abuse. What am I going to do about that? Am I going to ignore it, dismiss it, deny it, suppress it? Or am I going to create space to let that emotional stuckness move through me so I then have the capacity to build the neural pathways I want to feel? So we have to have a sense of awareness, willingness, and humility. And above all, self-compassion to allow ourselves to feel what we feel, truly, even the difficult stuff, to allow that to resolve and move and it have its completion of expression neurologically. And then it opens us up to creating what we actually want to feel.
The beauty of your answer is that you actually back it up with actual stats at the end of the book. You put actual stats on people from different age groups, people from different diagnoses, and how they recover by using the neuroplasticity process and by working with you in the Rocksteady program. So, what is the Rocksteady program?
Well, yeah, and like I was very conscious through all of this process that just because I heal doesn't mean someone else can. You know, I'm one person, I'm one data point. So after I did my own personal discoveries and healing and got my own sense of clarity of mind back, I then experimented with online resources, which became the online program. And I didn't know if it would work. I was actually a bit of a technological reject. I wanted to go play on the beach and climb trees as a kid. I wasn't interested in TV and, you know, computer games. So for me, technology was a bit of a scary beast. So I reluctantly engaged in building electronic resources so my clients who lived remotely could access them and they didn't have to come to my clinic. So I was doing it kind of out of need and necessity and compassion for the situation my clients were in. I was blown away by the fact that they were healing really quickly because they had 24/7 access to resources to help them when they're anxious, when they're confused, when they're imbalanced, when they're frustrated. They could just click play. They could dive into their online toolkit and get that support. And so since then, my Rocksteady program has just grown. There's essentially a first aid kit for whatever people are experiencing and going through. They can get that resource. There's peer group phone calls, there's Q&As. And above anything else, when it comes to neuroplasticity, what we really need is that sense of belief and motivation that we can actually be bothered to keep going and we don't just give up. And I think the program gives people that really lovely container of keep going, you're on track. It's okay if you feel like a failure. It's okay if you feel like you're not healing fast enough. Like, we hear you, we get it. This is a way of life. And it just, anyway, so basically the Rocksteady program, it's 6 modules. Originally, I thought people would go through it in 6 weeks, but it's so dense and so full. I encourage people to take 2 weeks per module, which is 12 weeks. And then once they finish the first 12 weeks, go back and do it again, because every time we go back and body scan and have the self-inquiry questions, we're a whole new person. We get a whole new layer of answers. So in the beginning, I might want to feel calm because I'm just anxious all the time. But the second time I go through the program, I might want to feel adventure and courage and risk, because I'm feeling that more ready to try on new kind of sensations and to try on new emotions. I've broadened myself. So the program is something you can do on repeat over and over and over again. You keep it for life, which is also great for people who have truly intermittent conditions, and they might be fine for a year and then they just get smashed again with another attack and they've got to go back into the program and re-engage with the support, and that just makes them heal so much more quickly. So,
Joy, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the program is accessible to people all over the world, right? There is no limits on who can access the program.
Yeah. And for people who are in third world countries in particular, we have pay what you can. So there's really no financial barrier either. The major barrier is English speaking. So I have clients with English as second language who use the transcriptions and translation.
Oh.
But that is unfortunately, I don't speak every language under the sun, but we're hoping that my book will get translated into many, many languages so people can read it in their native tongue. But yes, it's as long as you have internet, you can access my program. So.
All right. And that's very nice that you mentioned that about the people from third world countries being able to afford it, because as you know, many people that suffer from chronic conditions, they can't work anymore. They are depending on someone else. So a lot of people, especially from third world countries, wouldn't have the capacity to afford a program. So that's very nice that you will provide with that option as well. That's great.
Yeah.
Joy, you mentioned and I learned that from your book. I actually never really practiced it before. You mentioned body scanning. I do a little bit of yoga. I do it every day. I'm not an expert on it, but I do it to help me release and feel more relaxed at night and more flexible. But I never really understood the meaning of a body scan. After I read your book, I was like, this makes so much sense. This is absolutely brilliant. So can you please tell us a little bit about what the body scan is?
Great. Well, as human beings, we're basically trying to navigate safety in our world, both in ourselves and in the world around us. And our skin is like the barrier that protects us and distinguishes us from the outer world. So anything on the inside of my skin is me and my body. Anything on the outside of the skin is the outer world. So part of the job of our skin is to detect safety in the outer world, and that includes, heat from a bushfire, wetness from a flood, strong winds, violent touches. So our skin is really giving us a sense of, and also intuitively, sometimes it's very subtle things. Am I safe here? Or am I freaking out because I can just feel and hear and sense there's something dangerous over there. So the body scan comes in because it helps us to really form an intimate and special relationship with what am I feeling inside my body, what's real, what's not real, what's just me freaking out about a job interview next week, what's actually a lion chasing me, what's actually the fact that I'm upside down and tilting and I'm going to fall because my skin is telling me. And for example, if everybody listening to this call was to close their eyes right now, if you feel safe and comfortable, close your eyes and literally just tilt yourself to the left and feel that you will feel the weight on your left sitting bone become really heavy, and you'll feel the left shoulder is now not on top of the left hip, but it's there's an actual adjustment in the proprioception telling you, hey Joey, you're going to fall to the left if you keep that up. My body is telling me you're unsafe, right? So we start to feel, am I actually safe? Am I actually balanced? Or is it something going on up here that's a mismatch? It's a sensory conflict. It's a vertigo. And then the same with the tinnitus sounds. It's like, am I freaking out because there's this sound that I don't like? And it's upsetting me and I have no tolerance for it? Or is my body telling me, actually, no, I'm safe, I'm fine, I'm calm, I've got the seat, I've got the earth? And interestingly, and I think this comes through in the book, is our skin and proprioceptive body scan actually override emotional disturbance. So when we're feeling highly anxious and panic, dropping into a body scan with compassion and non-judgment can help us really ground back down into earth. And it tells the brain, actually, false alarm, there is no flood, there's no bushfire, there's no lightning storm, there's no cyclone, there's no violence, there's no real threat. We're safe. And the brain kind of goes,
Joy, and that's basically talking about the sympathetic and parasympathetic system of your body that tells you whether to be in high alert, red alert all the time, or to be a little bit more calm. Is that part of also of neuroplasticity? If you, let's say that if you're always with high anxiety, depression, you're scared, you're afraid of your own body, then neuroplasticity wouldn't take you to process properly the information that you need in order to feel safe and to heal. So do you also need to do these practices like the body scan, maybe some yoga, maybe breathing exercises in order for neuroplasticity to actually work? Because now you're in a more relaxed state of mind.
Yeah, well, it's not about the yoga or the breathing exercises or the body scan, actually. It's about, if the body's in the sympathetic stress system, it's not capable of neuroplasticity because it's just focusing on survival. It's not going to figure out vertigo. It's not going to figure out how to balance the body. It's not going to figure out tinnitus. And especially if the vertigo or tinnitus are triggering the fear response, there is no way the body's going to use neuroplasticity to resolve it, because it views the vertigo or tinnitus as the threat. It has a misunderstanding, a highly incorrect misunderstanding of no truth, that the vertigo or tinnitus is life-threatening, bad, abnormal. And my book really tries to say that it's normal. Any of these sensations are fine and normal. We need to really shift the relationship to one of curiosity, neutrality. If you can, shift it towards love, compassion, kindness. And that changes neurologically how we work with it. It allows us to remain in the parasympathetic nervous system. The way people do that is highly unique. So sure, some people may use breath. Some people may use yoga. But for other people, breath will trigger stress. For other people, yoga will trigger stress. For other people, body scanning feels completely impossible. I think ultimately everybody has to be able to return home to their body at some point. Otherwise, they're living disconnected and disembodied, and that's really a symptom of anxiety. But I've had clients who have taken 3 months of perseverance before they could body scan and actually feel calm, like actually feel safe. It's taken them 3 months of panic and freaking out and self-doubt and anticipation and questioning, and they're the kind of clients who are like, I just knew I had to stick with it. I knew I had to learn to body scan. I had no idea how. I had no idea how long it would take. I felt like such a failure. I completely judged myself, but they stuck with it. And eventually they reaped all the rewards and all the benefits because they came home to their body. But, it wasn't an easy process. The body scanning for some people is highly traumatic and triggering if you don't like your body or feel safe in your body, or if you have had abuse and trauma. We want to be anywhere but the body. And so there's this therapeutic process of coming home, befriending, compassion, and all of those resources are in my book, Rocksteady.
Yes. Now let's talk a little bit about the book. I got my copy right here.
Yeah, I've got mine.
How long did it take you to write the book?
I think it was 9 months.
Okay.
It actually happened really quickly because the first 3 chapters I dawdled and I was slow and I didn't have my confidence yet. But then I got an editor to help me, and I would actually send her the chapter, and she did no editing really, but she just coached me. She was like, great, send me the next one, send me the next one. Loved it. And then I got my flow, and I loved writing it. It was a complete joy. It just flowed straight out of me. It was just pure joy. I wrote it, then I fell pregnant, had a baby, and when my baby was 6 weeks old, I began the publishing process. So there was a bit of a pause between writing it and publishing it.
Okay, well, let me tell you, the book is brilliant. It's easy to understand. It's easy to work with, and I highlighted a few things in here that in page 102, page 102,
Sure.
you describe the common descriptions of dizziness, and it's very easy to relate to this. You said spinning, flurry, disoriented, swimming inside my brain, cotton wool in my head, rocking like a boat. That one is very popular. People often say that they are swaying like they are in a boat. Swaying, tilting, pressure in my head, strain behind the eyes, double vision. I haven't experienced that one, thanks to God. Visual distortions and auras, very, very common as well. Stomach drop, panic, anxiety, floating, disconnected, feeling out of the body, very, very common one as well. Discomfort, and the most popular, not quite right. Out of all of these descriptions, when you were experiencing your own symptoms, which ones you related it with?
Well, definitely spinning. Hang on. Spinning, flurry, disorientation, swimming in my brain, cotton wool in my head, all of those. Not like I'm drunk. Tilting to one side, yes. Pressure in my head, strain in my eyes, yes. Double vision, yes. Visual distortions, yes. Visual distortions is really big for me. I get a lot of that. Not so much anymore, but if I'm stressed or rushed or I've lost my alignment, you know, spiritually even, visual distortions can really come up for me as an indicator that I need to really come back to my center and reevaluate my decisions, my choices. Stomach drop, yes. Nausea, yes. Panic and anxiety, absolutely. Disconnection, yes. Like a decade of that. Discomfort, of course, and not quite right. Yeah, so most of them.
And Joy, you being a vestibular audiologist, when a patient comes to you telling you, I'm dizzy or I'm experiencing vertigo, do you often try to see if any of these other descriptions apply to them? Or you, because you experienced it yourself before, you know, okay, you're dizzy, so I know what that means. Because a lot of, like my doctor here in Canada, when I tell him I'm dizzy, he's like, well, dizzy like what? Dizzy like lightheaded, or dizzy like you're falling, or dizzy like everything is spinning? So how do you help people explain their kind of dizziness?
Actually, for diagnosis reasons, we have to ask a few questions because that helps us differentiate where the root of the sensation might be coming from. So I ask questions from that point of view. You know, does it happen when you're lying, when you're bending? Does it go on 24/7, or does it stop and start? Does it exacerbate and then die down again? And I will ask these questions because I want to know, okay, are the eyes affected? Do I feel like it's coming from something in the midbrain? Do I feel like it's generated at the ears? Do I feel like it's got to do with a confusion with the vestibular spinal reflexes? So that's why I'm asking questions, just to see if I can get an understanding of the diagnosis, which may or may not be useful, but really that's for doctors' reports.
Okay.
When it comes to rehabilitation and neuroplasticity, what I spend time on is what do you want to feel, not what don't you want to feel.
Your feeling was bothering you, yes.
Let's focus on, okay, so you want to feel calm and centered. Let's focus on that, because the more we talk about the dizziness and the spinning and the flurry and the disorientation, the further we are from what you actually want to feel. And my job now is really on the recovery process. I'm not really involved anymore in the diagnostic process like I was when I worked at the university. So my role in the process has changed. Yes, and I leave diagnosis up to the diagnostic professionals and the doctors, and they do a marvelous job. Even if they don't get an answer, that's an answer in and of itself. It's like, the fact that they don't know what it is not a bad answer, and we can work with that and we can still heal. So the doctors know what they're doing, and I don't tend to interfere.
But regarding of the diagnosis, let's make this clear. Regarding of the diagnosis, whether it's BPPV, triple PD, vestibular migraines, you can always heal with neuroplasticity, correct?
Yeah, and I think, so it reminds me of this chapter here, which is, seek medical clearance, not a diagnosis. And the reason you want medical clearance is because that implies you're not going to suddenly drop dead. There's no immediate medical intervention needed. You're safe as far as staying alive goes, doctors are fantastic at medical clearance. Doesn't mean they'll know exactly why you're feeling what you're feeling or how long it will take to heal, but medical clearance is the gold standard. That's where you start, right? Healing doesn't mean you never have a distorted sensation ever again. I'm healed, right? I'm normal. I'm a completely healthy young human being with a great sense of I feel nourished. I feel really strong. Do I ever experience vertigo or tinnitus? Sure, it can come and go. It could be a blip here, a blip there. Do I ever feel disoriented? Yeah, especially if I'm, walking up a spiral staircase overlooking a raging ocean or something, or I'm perhaps the passenger in the car going really fast in Italy on those small roads on the other side of the road and my brain's confused, right? So sensory distortions come and go depending on where we are, how much we've eaten, how much sleep we've had, our emotional state, our spiritual alignment to our purpose, our meaning, have I abandoned myself? So sensory distortions and feeling not quite right are often like a GPS system saying, Joey, come back. You're losing yourself, come back. So healing, I think, is a way of life, and it's being humble to that alignment. Instead of saying, no, I never want to feel that, and if I feel that, I'm abnormal. And in order to be healed, I have to have 100% normal feelings all the time. A, that's highly judgmental, and judgment keeps you stuck.
Yes.
And B, you're a biological, complex being with physical, mental, emotional, spiritual layers of health. It's impossible to be like sitting at this prime time all the time, especially as a hormonal changing being. We need to be able to ride the roller coaster, which I go into chapter 9. We need to be able to face stresses and adapt and be resourced and adapt again and be resourced and adapt again. And this changing sensory landscape is normal. Like having changing sensory input and sensory experiences is normal. So it's actually healing is about being okay with that. Instead of feeling stuck in a chronic symptom, probably ending up anxious and depressed and a loss of confidence and feeling disempowered and feeling victim to circumstance. We completely take power back. We control our inner world. We befriend our inner world. We process what we need to process, and we then focus on what we want to feel, and we really put our energy into hardwiring that. So if I want to feel courageous, spacious, and graceful, that's what my daily practice is focused on.
Yes, it's yes. You focus on what you want, no what is holding you back. Joy, something that in the earlier chapters, as you know, a lot of these conditions bring a lot of neck tension, and because we're constantly tense and holding our head straight. You mentioned an exercise that you said curiosity. You said exercise curiosity. What does that mean? I couldn't picture it in my mind.
Well, it's really the opposite of non-judgment. I mean, it's opposite of judgment. When we're curious, we're really open to what we're seeing. We're not saying, hey, that should be blue, not red. Or that's right, or that's wrong. Or that's cold, that's hot. We're not judging how things should be. We're not operating a mind or a person who's living under the dogma of judgment is much more likely to be anxious and depressed and stuck.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who just shows up to life with curiosity is like, well, this is interesting. I'm noticing sadness today. How interesting. I'm just going to give it color. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to body scan into the sadness. I'm noticing the sadness in my left shoulder. That's interesting. I'm going to get curious about that. Hi, shoulder. What can you tell me? We have a dialogue. We become very artistic, playful, creative about what we're experiencing instead of saying, you shouldn't feel that, shoulder. I'm going to go to the osteopath and get rid of it. I'm going to eliminate it. Yeah. So we start to be in dialogue with our environment. We can also get curious about the garden, about birds, about traffic, about anything around us, and it really helps us to sustain more of the parasympathetic rest, relax, digest nervous system because we're not living locked in judgment and rigidity and how things should be, which just leads to migraines and the cascade gets propagated. So yes, curiosity is the vital ingredient for actual body scanning, because otherwise if we're body scanning and noticing things in our body and rejecting them and judging them, we perpetuate the issue. So we have to body scan with curiosity, with non-judgment, with kindness, with unconditional loving acceptance as we show up in each moment.
Yeah. And what I like about your book is that it talks about a holistic approach. Like you talk about the spiritual, the physical, the emotional, because this link together in order to get better. You can just ignore one and focus on the other two. You have to have a holistic approach to all
Yeah.
of them. Joy, in page 120, you're talking a little bit about BPPV, and there is a part where you said excessive treatments can further dislodge particles and create ongoing symptoms. The brand thereof exercises, so flopping your body from one side to the other. Uh, if you basically are saying don't overdo them. And then you also said you have seen patients with BPPV for over 20 years without being offered the proper treatment. So when you're talking about these exercises or these procedures, these physical methods, when you say overdoing them will actually create more problems, what do you mean? So basically, don't do them at home and just leave it to the professional to help you do them, or what are you trying to say?
No, quite the opposite. I would recommend if anybody knows they have benign paroxysmal positional vertigo or BPPV, if you know you have it and it's intermittent and it comes and goes and it's bothering you, I would highly recommend you use the BPPV video kit that I designed because it teaches you how to identify exactly which ear is affected, which canal and which maneuver to use, and you can just go straight to the root cause and resolve it really elegantly. Because going to see multiple with professionals and getting lots of generic flopping on the bed, I don't recommend at all ever, right? That's an old treatment from the 50s or 60s. But some people do it for different reasons, or doctors try it out. And look, if it works, that's great. But if it, try it for a day or two, and if it doesn't work, just stop doing it because it's actually aggravating your system. So in a perfect world, you can see a professional locally and they're highly trained in vestibular conditions and they give you a very specific maneuver that they do for you once or twice and you actually feel better within 24 hours. It's very quick to resolve BPPV when it's done properly. And you can learn to do it yourself. It can come and go, which is nobody's fault. That just happens. But you can test it and treat it and literally be back to normal within 24 hours. You don't do it every day.
And where can people access your video on your website, or where do you have it available?
Yeah, it's all part of the rocksteady program. It's like it's for anybody with vertigo, that is absolutely core. I've met people who have been absolutely debilitated with anxiety because of BPPV, even when they don't have it. They're normal, they've got no vertigo, but they're worried it will come back. And they live their entire lives just paranoid about BPPV returning. They don't go on any holidays. They get terrified to drive a car. They feel like they have to have their physiotherapist on speed dial.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have this video kit, you can be in Thailand, you could get BPPV and you just treat yourself. It's so simple and easy once you've got that knowledge and that confidence.
Okay.
And if you don't have that knowledge and confidence, it can ruin your life. It can be so disabling.
Yes, because you're constantly thinking about it. You're right. Joy, in page 260, we're talking now about the healing part. You say, when we are normal, we practice presence and we never feel lonely. Life is no longer dictated by the what ifs. If nothing else, we have ourselves as our own friend. Very nice. We are self-reassured, self-nurtured, self-soothing, and self-compassionate. When we are normal, we stop comparing ourselves to others or how we used to feel. And this is part of the neuroplasticity that you were talking about earlier, because we no longer need to judge ourselves or keep thinking, I used to be normal, I used to be like that. We cannot think, well, this is the now me, and I'm going to focus on being better, being happier, being stronger, being more excited, being more calm, more relaxed, more flexible. So
I think the other little missing link there is this is me right now, and no matter how I show up in this moment, I'm going to practice being loving towards that me, even if I am sad, even if I am disoriented. Maybe there's a reason I'm disoriented. Maybe I'm changing my career, or maybe I'm having another baby. Maybe I don't even know what's going on. I'm confused. I'm numb. Can I bring loving kindness to that confusion and numbness? Because that's how I'm showing up in this moment. And by sensing that and feeling that and being with that, I'm more likely to actually arrive at my clarity instead of dismissing it, denying it, telling myself I shouldn't feel this way and just carrying on with my life as I am and not having that humility to self-inquire, to self-soothe. We will never be the person we were. And I explained that in chapter 10. Our body is actually replacing and replenishing itself every 3 to 4 days. Physically, we are dying and being reborn at a cellular level. We are not the person we were. We're growing, we're maturing, we're developing. If we feel like we want to be the person we were, it's the equivalent of wanting to have a computer with an old operating system, and it's just full of viruses. It's slow, nothing works, nothing's compatible, but we're just obsessed with this old computer, right? It doesn't work like that. We have to update. And human beings are the same. We have to physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually update our inner software. And if we want to remain stuck in the person we used to be, we're actually denying ourselves living right now. We're living in the past, and we're literally setting ourselves up for disappointment. We can't time travel as far as I know.
Joy, do you mind reading page 269? I like to hear this in your words. It's a little paragraph, but it's very powerful.
Closing words?
Yes.
Sure, I'd love to. Closing words. Your healing process with neuroplasticity will take as long as it needs to take. You are in control of how you heal and how you don't heal. If there is one final message that I would like to leave you with, it is this. You and your body are much more powerful than you realize. You have much more potential for healing than you can ever know. The human mind and body are complex miracles of nature. You are as powerful as you allow yourself to be. You are in the driver's seat. Arrange the support you need and develop a team to surround you so that you can continue this important, ongoing neuroplasticity work. Trust into your healing. Feel into and through it each day.
That is a beautiful paragraph. Like it gives me almost goosebumps reading it because it summarizes everything and telling you not to push yourself to unrealistic outcomes and to love yourself and be kind and understand that this process might take time, but if you love yourself during the process, you come to the results that you're looking for. So it's amazing. Joy, where can people find the book and where can people find you?
My website is seekingbalance.com.au, and from there you'll find access to many free resources and paid programs. The book you can buy online if you search Rocksteady by Joey Remini, or there's also links via my website. But yeah, you can buy this anywhere from any online bookshop, whether it be independent or some of the bigger ones like Book Depository, Booktopia, Fish Pond, Amazon. It's available in most countries. So yes, I if you like my book, please review it. That helps so much, and it helps to spread the word so that more people see it. So if you feel that you want to become an advocate to help future sufferers of these conditions, actually buying this book and reviewing it is one way you can help spread the word, spread the conversation. And in many ways, I hope this book is the beginning of many books that are written by different people to really broaden this field of knowledge. It's a conversation starter, and I'm just so pleased with the feedback I'm getting that people who have had chronic tinnitus and insomnia are now sleeping soundly through the night, and many people with vertigo and dizziness are coming back to normal and steadiness and having little moments of not quite right instead of whole weeks. So it works, and as you mentioned, there's research we've done and it works. It's really amazing. When we support the body supports us.
Yes. Joy, my last two questions are, what does the future hold for Joy?
Well, I've got a little baby and I want to have another baby. So for me, I'm really in the midst of being mum and enjoying that gentle, slower pace of life. I'm always a part of the Seeking Balance community. I'm active on my Facebook group, so that's the best way to get in touch with me. I also have emails that I send out infrequently. If people want to just be in my circles, go to my website and sign up to my free starter kit or any of my programs. And but with COVID, lots of domestic travel. I like to stay in nature and live a quiet life, camping, and reading books. I love reading books. So that's, for me, great medicine.
And that kind of connects with my final question, which is, as you know, this channel is called Find Your Chappiness. So basically, find your happiness. What does Joy do to find her happiness?
Well, I love music. I'm in a band and I play violin and mandolin. I definitely like reading. I walk most days to the beach. I love spending time with family and friends. I love cooking on a campfire. I love sharing home-cooked meals. Being in nature, gardening. yoga is really a central thing that I always come home to. Sleep makes me happy.
And babies must make you very happy because you want to have another one now. So that must be something that you really like being a mom.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's bliss. It's the easiest thing I've ever done, and it's just been so rewarding. Yeah.
So nice. Thank you, Joy.
I mean, arguably, I didn't do anything. It kind of happens through me, you know? Like, I didn't have to tell my body to build a lung or build a heart or start creating fingers. It all just happens automatically. I just had to stay present and body scan. So, yeah.
Yes. Yes, awesome. Well, Joey, thank you very much for your time and for your knowledge and your words. I really appreciate it. Again, I love the book. Very, very informative, very educational, and easy to put into practice. And
Yeah.
I honestly recommend it to many people if they want to learn more about you and about neuroplasticity and the rocksteady program. The book is a great resource, a great tool. And yeah, thank you again for raising awareness and for being an advocate to all the vestibular people. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Johan. It's really nice to meet you and to talk with you. Thanks for inviting me to read the closing words. That was nice.
Yeah, yeah, no, pleasure. And if you ever want to come by Canada and do a tour of Canada, let me know. I'll be
I
part of
definitely
it.
will. My publishing team are in Canada. My mentor is in Canada. I've got family in Canada. So
Oh,
it's
now you
definitely,
got a new friend in Canada. So there you
yeah.
go.
Yes, there's lots of connections in Canada, so I would love to go there. I've never been. Be
All
amazing.
right. Joey, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and we'll chat soon.
Great. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.